just being a yes man, while always in the back of my head, like it transformed from being I want to be the best drummer to I want to be an incredible musician.
Welcome, everybody, to Nashville Drummers Podcast, episode 55.
Today's guest is someone that we've been talking to for many months, and we were finally able to get our schedules to align. But man, it was so worth the wait. Very excited to welcome Garrett Tyler to the podcast. Many of you may know Garrett as the current bandleader and drummer for multi-Grammy award-winning pop duo For King and Country. Garrett is also an established artist, producer, multi-instrumentalist, and educator.
He is a great dude. He's one of the guys that when I first was in town, I met up with for coffee just to ask him questions about Nashville and doing music for a living and all of that good stuff. And he was so willing to come and just talk to a rando like me and give me his time. I am forever grateful for Garrett Tyler.
Yeah, and we're super grateful for this conversation. Reading from his bio, he writes, "In the midst of the music, Garrett values the friendships and connections he makes above all." And I think that's just the perfect encapsulation for his journey and the way that he values those friendships, those relationships that have really led to a lot of cool opportunities in his career, including his January 2024 feature on the cover of Modern Drummer with For King and Country. And we dive into that whole story and how that all came to be. We also spent a good amount of the conversation discussing his drum corps background. From 2012 to 2015, Garrett was a member of the world-renowned Blue Devils Drum and Bugle Corps. And it was really cool hearing how the drum corps has been a really vital part of his life and who he is as a person and as a musician. And we kind of end the conversation discussing his debut solo album titled New Normal. And he gives us a really thorough breakdown, kind of track by track, and those influences, again, coming back to the relationships and collaborations with those in the community. So definitely go check out New Normal wherever you stream music.
We hope you enjoy episode 55.
Anyway.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man.
Pumped to be here.
Thanks for your patience. I know there's been a few reschedulations. Is that a word?
Hell no, but it's great.
Reschedulation. It should be.
It sounds cool though, right?
It should be. Yeah. No, I'm here for it.
You sound like a character from a Key and Peele sketch, so that's great.
Okay, that's what I was going for, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Word. No, I'm pumped to be here. Obviously, been following along for a while now, and it's cool to see what you guys are doing, bringing the community together. Which, I mean, we're biased, right? Drummers have the strongest
Dude, let's go.
unit, I would say.
I think so.
Yeah.
You don't see organ players hanging out.
That'd be tight if they did, though.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that, though.
Yeah, I mean it.
How was your day today? What have you been up to?
Guys, so I got into golf last year.
Ooh.
Yeah. Last October. Got into it on the road with my buddy Chris Carabellis, who plays percussion in one of the bands I play for. And didn't grow up playing, never played, and I'm hooked. Like, I love it.
You need to talk to Bo Kuther.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I know.
Tavion
we did
Graham.
a tour together.
Yeah,
actually.
Tavion as well.
But new to the sport, so today I went out with a couple buds and we golfed at Ted Rhodes. It was great.
It's like 100 degrees out.
Oh, it was. We needed the electrolytes.
Yeah.
So how, as a person who was never into golf and
Yes.
who became an into golf type guy, how did you do that? Was it just like you tried it and you're like, yeah, this is for me? Or was there any element of like, I have to work through this and now I enjoy it?
Well, to be candid, I've kind of like, on the fringe of keeping up with golf,
Okay.
like just catching on ESPN, different people, whatever. DJ Khaled got me into golf. I don't know if you've seen his Instagram videos. I know you have.
I've seen
But I laugh, you've seen them. Anyway, on tour, DJ Khaled, I'm like, he looks like he's having too much fun. Like I need to try this. So anyway, me and Chris, we went out and played Vinnie Links in Shelby, which is like super cheap, like $12, par 3 9-hole course. It's like, I love this. Got some clubs, started playing. It's a journey, but like my personality is like, you know, you find a hobby and you're all in. You commit every waking hour for like the next foreseeable future until you're like decent enough to like calls up someone to go play with them. You know what I mean? Because that's the hard part is like countless hours at the range and like playing by myself till I feel comfortable like playing with another human being.
Yeah.
You know, golf's hard. It's...
Yeah, I've only played really once. My first stroke was actually really good.
Let's go.
And then I think I got cocky and then it was downhill from there.
Yeah. And it's a game of hills and
I
valleys.
get it though. Yeah,
it's hills and valleys.
And sand dunes.
You can friggin' drive 275 yards down the fairway and then, you know, just hit 5 bad shit. It's just, anyway, golf is hard.
It's something that enough of my friends are into, and I always want to like it. You know what I mean? It's not like baseball where I'm like, I don't care that I don't like baseball. I want to like golf.
Yeah.
My dudes are often found golfing, and maybe it would be fun for me to be found with my dudes golfing
On the golf course.
perhaps.
I think
Yeah.
Found
what
alive. Yes.
yeah.
Just clarify.
the cool thing about golf is, as you know, getting older is like you can play it forever. Like
Yeah.
literally, you can always play it. But 2, you're just outside, and usually some of the most beautiful places.
Oh, yeah.
Like the first time I played Hermitage, I'm like, I never knew this existed. You know,
Yeah.
it's just stunning out there. So it's like you're outside, beautiful weather. You get to kind of dress up a little bit, kind of look, you know, swaggy, and anyway, and then it's just this lifelong commitment to like hit this little ball 400 yards down the fairway. But I'd say the coolest thing I found is like even just meeting other musicians that play. And like I've already in the, you know, since October, less than a year of playing, I've made so many friends that I probably would have never met before just from meeting them on the golf course.
Yeah.
Which has been super rad. Like it is very much just as much social as it is a like physical, you know, like fun, new hobby to have, which has been super life-giving. It's been cool.
Dude,
Yeah.
how cool is that, man?
Yeah. We got to get out there though.
Yeah. I'd love to do that.
Let's go.
I've been saying that, you know, I'm on one right now. I've been like promising to go out and do pickleball and do like frisbee golf. I'm like, why not? Rock climbing and real golf.
Real
ball,
golf.
or ball golf as the frolfers call it.
Ball golf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm in it. Let's go.
Let's go.
I'm-
We're on
I
record.
mean it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's go. We're
I'll
going.
come. I can either play or just videotape or
Dude.
get drunk.
Drive the
all the
car,
above. Yeah, yeah.
cruise.
Let's all go.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Let's go.
I'm just gonna get out there and embarrass myself and just have the best time.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Because there's just no way I'm gonna be any good at that.
And that's fine.
Just no
You know,
way.
you gotta play your game. Play your game, you know?
Have you found any certain parallels, bringing it back to drums? 'Cause you mentioned obviously like committing to the craft and obviously the technique of golf, technique
Yeah.
of drums and all that, but is there something that you found or is it just totally an escape?
Honestly, which I feel like a lot of drummers can probably connect with. There's something very methodical and the longevity of drumming, especially if you come from a rudimentary background where you do a lot of pad work.
Yeah.
And it's about, it's like I want to do this to the day I die. I want to be drumming when I'm 99 years old. You know, it's like,
and preferably, if possible, I'd like to be better at it at that time.
yes. Might not be able to do all the things physically that I could do 50 years later, but it's like my knowledge and growth of the instrument, I feel like crosses over to golf very similarly. Because it's like, you know, before every show, I have a practice pad routine and I warm up and I go through this series of things that I've done for years that allow me to like get into a flow state. And so I feel like golf is similar to where if you just try to get up there and to, you know, like step up and just swing haphazardly, who knows? But if you have your process where it's like you line up the same way, you have your grip, you know, you have a checklist of like, I do this, therefore I'm teeing myself up.
You're calibrating.
Boom.
Calibrating.
Yeah.
I like that. Calibrating.
So, what is that process, or what does that look like for you for the drums? What's your little warm up?
Gosh, pre-show.
Yeah.
It kind of looks different, but as of lately, It's fun because, like I said, I've been touring most predominantly as of late with a band called For King and Country. And so in that band, it's a large band. There's 9 of us on stage. And I play drums and my buddy Chris is the percussionist. And so usually starts by, we'll get, we have dinner, post-dinner, pre-show talk, and then I'll get the pad out. And on that show, I'm playing with like extreme 5Bs, like big beefy sticks. So like you can't go in. The first 4 songs of that set are as of recently like burners. You know what I mean? It's like go, 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 go. So if you're not loose, you're just building up acid in your muscle,
so
and you're
tension.
just
I feel that.
You're screwed the rest of the show. So I have a heavy marching rudimental background. And like orchestral concert background, a lot of snare work, a lot of pad work. And so I start with like all my diddle rudiments. I'll put on like Fred Again or like whatever music I'm listening to that's kind of up tempo, like real dancey or some disco or whatever. And that'd be my metronome. And I'll literally in front of the mirror, I will do just a series of rudiments back to back, flowing in between. And it's all just flow. I'm just trying to connect everything, never stop. All legato, big open strokes. And then I'll bring the dynamics in, just flowing multiple ways. And then I have like 3 old like drumline rudiment kind of like exercises.
Yeah.
That after Chris and I have done our separate warm-ups, we'll come together and we'll play through those together. And the whole goal of that is like for us then to start locking in, with how because being the drummer and band leader, it's like and there's like a lot of drums, I want us all to interpret things the same way. So
right.
There's a lot of passages where he's like playing a marching groove on a piccolo snare. So a lot of it needs to sync up. So we'll go through these drumline exercises together where it'll be like, hey, you're actually like pressing your diddles, like let those breathe a little bit. And then we'll start connecting.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of free form.
Whoa.
Flowing through rudiments and then together work almost like we're in drumline together.
Yeah, literally, like you're on the snare line.
Yeah. And we're focusing on listening. And then our last like chop out to really get the blood flowing, we turn on what's that Dua Lipa song? Levitating, I think.
Yeah.
And we just full strokes, like full legato stroke, 8th notes, 8 on a hand, the whole song and never stop.
So you have music playing throughout that entire process.
Except for the exercises. Yeah. But even then sometimes it's all to music.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's really cool.
It's cool.
Man, that's a really cool approach. Okay. I've been thinking a lot about how Pocket is multi-layered, right?
Yes.
There's a part of it that's the discipline, just like you listen and you connect, but there's another part that goes beyond just discipline, and there is an actual ability, a skill called pocket building. And it's a different level to do that with another percussionist.
Yeah.
It's a totally different level of skill required and discipline, both. So that's really cool to hear that process, man.
Dude, it's a lot of fun. And obviously it feels like at home because most of my drumming career up until I moved to Nashville was like in a drum line or in like an ensemble or a group. And the ebb and flow of being the listener and having to attune yourself to someone else's pocket versus setting the pocket and like learning the skills to communicate to them how to, and just being able to hear it. Like, it's like being able to hear if you crush a diddle versus it being more, just those little things.
It's almost like you have to really train your ear to be able to hear those subtleties, right?
Yeah. And it's just so much fun. It's definitely a highlight of the night, prepping and warming up. 'Cause sometimes the other band's like behind us just dancing and we're just chopping out, you know what I mean?
Dude,
so it's a lot of fun.
Let's go there. I mean, I want to hear more about because I know you did Blue Devils.
Yes.
Which is like the New England Patriots of drum corps, for those unfamiliar. Definitely a top performing group every year.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned you have like a non-traditional upbringing in school as well, right?
Yeah.
So kind of walk us through kind of what that looked like.
Sorry, I just want to point out that Taylor's over here going, I didn't know you were hot shit. Okay.
No. Man,
this is the man. Y'all don't even know.
Eager to learn, always trying to get better.
Humble,
Man, I grew up in the beginning.
Yes.
No.
Yeah, where are you from?
I grew up in a really small town called Pocahontas, Arkansas. and it's the farm town in Arkansas. It's like nowadays with the new highway construction, it's only, I don't know, like an hour 30 from Memphis, Tennessee. But growing up, it was like plus 2 hours to get to Memphis. And that was the closest live music you had to go to was Memphis. And so I didn't really get to have a lot of musical experiences growing up. Like everything was contained to my town and what was on the radio, what my parents were listening to. And so grew up in Pocahontas, like just a farmer kid, loved dirt bike riding, being outside, whatever. Played a lot of sports. And I remember being at a football game and seeing the drum line in the top of the risers. And I'd listened to a lot of music. It was like my mom was a huge like rock and roll head. Like Aerosmith, AC/DC, like that whole era into like 90s rock pop band. A lot of what was current at the time growing up. And then my grandpa and my grandma, country and western only. Like whatever was on the Grand Ole Opry is what we were listening to.
Love it. Mix.
And then my dad, completely separate. It's funny. I like to say the widest artist my dad listened to was Michael Jackson. So
Yeah. Okay.
literally,
Awesome.
that's the joke. So literally, it was like all R&B, all soul, all Motown, Stevie Wonder, Billy Ocean, Michael
go.
Jackson. Like everything in that world. And then school introduced me to jazz. So it was like all these huge influences in my life had extremely different musical backgrounds, but was listening to all of it.
Yeah.
But all that to say, you were the melting pot the whole time. I was the melting. Bro, preach.
Yeah.
So, high school football game, I look up, the drum line was just like vibing harder than everyone else at the football game. And I'm like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
Was the team no good? Like,
Team was decent, but it didn't matter because it was like, you had the band, you had like, my parents never let me play football anyway. So
The band, nobody vibes harder than the band at the game. That's just a fact.
especially in a small town.
Yeah, seriously.
Like the band is vibing, and then I look up and just to the extreme, the drum line's going all in. And so I'm like, I want to do this. Like, I want to do that. So the next year was like you filled out the beginning band stuff, and then you did the ear training and rhythm tests and stuff. And I wrote down like a PS at the very bottom. I was like, please, like DJ Khaled, please let me play drums. And so I did well on all my tests enough they placed me in drums anyway. And that's where everything changed. It was like the whole front half of my career at Pocahontas from like 7th grade up through 9th grade was like marching snare was my life. Like I dedicated everything to it. Like watching drum corps, like watching all these DCI groups, like the Blue Devils, Phantom Regiment, the Cavaliers, and like just what seemed to me, my little brain at the time was flawed, like they were perfect.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my gosh, hope one day. And then, there were no drum set studies where I was. And so it was like marching snare is what you did. And then concert band.
Yeah.
So like was learning all orchestral, like all the keyboards, four mallet, et cetera, percussion, symphony, blah, blah, blah. And that was my life until halfway through 10th grade, my band director left. I'd kind of like hit a peak at Pocahontas resource-wise, where it was like, if I want to learn and take my musical ability to the next level, I need to go to a better school.
Yeah.
And so my band director, obviously was super connected in the state. It was like, hey, he talked to my parents, you need to like let Garrett go to Jonesboro High School, which was an hour away. And so halfway through 10th grade, I left Pocahontas, transferred to Jonesboro High School, and finished my high school at JHS. It was kind of like an academy. Like music and choir was one of the best schools in Arkansas for a high school. And so that was where I was finally surrounded by other musicians and other drummers. And I was like, oh, I'm not the big fish anymore.
Exactly.
I'm little fish. And it was like so invigorating.
growing, right?
It was like exciting because it was like for the first time I had also shout out to like Brenda Harbison and Mr. Dunn and like my early teachers at Pocahontas. They were incredible and taught me so much.
Yeah.
But when I moved to Jonesboro, and continue to have a relationship with him, but when I moved to Jonesboro, my drum instructor was this guy, Adam Clay, he marched Cavaliers, and he was one of the drum instructors for the Cavaliers at the time. And he taught our drum line. And he kind of like really opened up this idea of like pushing for more, like, have you thought about drum corps? Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And so that was also the same time where I got introduced to jazz band and drum set. And that just unlocked a whole nother part of my mind. Yeah. And so it was like drum set and marching snare were like my life. And so from then on, did the all region thing, did all state, jazz band, like did the whole 9 yards. My senior year of high school, I auditioned for the All-American Marching Band, got it on snare. And that kind of leads me to the Blue Devils. Marched my senior year, and I was the only member that wasn't, if not already in a drum corps, that was like going on that summer to be in a drum corps. And they're like, bro, you need to do it. But I'm like, the next year's college. I'm like, I don't really want to play snare drum, like pursue snare drum. So this is a true story, by the way. I then Googled what is the like top drum corps, and it was like Blue Devils, obviously. And I think at the time, the Cavaliers and like Santa Clara Vanguard.
Yeah. Definitely.
Then I was like, okay, which drum corps have drum set? And so Blue Devils at the time had, the Cavaliers had at the time, and I think there was one more. Madison Scouts had a drum line at the time. There were only a few. Yeah. And like maybe
There's a lot more now.
Blue Coats. They all have kits now. Everything's changed. But at the time, and it was cool because Blue Devils were also heavy jazz oriented. Like Gordon Goodwin's doing a lot of the arrangements with the band. And so there was like this heavy, like drum set wasn't just a part of it. It was like kind of like a key role in that drum corps. That kind of led me that next season of my life of like going to college and being in drum corps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, dude.
What a journey.
Which I can keep going. I could keep talking about it.
Bro.
But,
so you can.
You are allowed to keep talking about it.
You have to contractually keep talking.
I'll just kind of tell you the story.
We'll intercept.
Stop me at any time. But it was graduated, and I was like, what am I going to do? Stayed local, went to Arkansas State University, and I studied music education there. And for the first time was kind of seeking out drum set studies on my own. I flew. This was kind of the crazy thing because Blue Devils like ultimately changed my life for the most part up until like recent things in my life. It was like high school, went to college. I flew to SoCal, first time ever flying in a plane, commercial plane. Yeah. And my dad went with me. Got the packet, connected, like a month before the audition. And I got there, walk up, and they're like, oh, you didn't see the drum, or like for drum set auditions, those are next weekend in Northern California.
Oh, no.
And I was like, oh, well, I'm from Arkansas. This is my only chance to be here. It's like, is there any way I can audition? So they called up Sean Glide, who was the drum set writer and instructor for the Blue Devils. He was catching a flight out that night. He swung by on the way to the airport to audition me.
Wow.
What a G.
Yeah.
Seriously.
This is crazy how it all worked out. But like on a whim, he was still in town, flew by, auditioned me. The audition, I flew all the way to California for a 30-minute audition. Yeah. And he was like, cool. You'll hear from us for callbacks if that happens. Because the auditions weren't until the next week where everyone was coming to audition. Yeah. And so I left a week and a half goes by, and they're like, hey, we'd like to invite you for callbacks. Obviously.
I'm clapping even though I knew that had to be the case. So it's still good to hear it, damn it.
Yeah, it was great. And so I flew back out, and it was me and forget his last name. Jake something. He was a Berkeley kid, Boston Berkeley kid. And it was up between the two of us, and I ended up obviously getting the spot. And that was rad, because then from then on, for the next 2 years.
Wasn't Jake Robinson?
What?
Jake Robinson?
Black hair?
No.
No.
Yeah, I don't think he did drum corps. No.
Well, I mean, he did do some core stuff back in the day, but that's
Yeah.
the whole
I
different
forget.
thing.
The Jake that I was up against was the drum set player for Blue Devils B Corps, like their lead-in corps the year before.
Okay.
And so then on through college, bro, my college experience, it's crazy because all I remember from it now is like the friends I met and drum corps and like just music. Because it was like I took all my gen eds online. I didn't live in the dorm. I lived with my sister. So I didn't do any music classes in person. Sorry, I did all my music classes in person and then every gen ed was online so I could be gone.
Right.
And so once a month for 2 years, I flew to California for rehearsals and then did drum corps, would move out to California, May, live there for a month, rehearse every day, go on tour. Finals were like the week before college started back.
Yeah.
And finals,
August,
come back home,
yeah.
start college,
Yeah.
repeat.
And you did Blue Devils for what, 4 years?
So I did the A Corps because you age out at 21. I did it for 2 years. We won my first year and we got second. We got robbed, but we got second my
As
second
every
year.
drum corps participant could say.
Yeah, which was sick. Like first year in, the show was like really cool. It was called Dada. It was this art form a long time ago that we turned into this like really crazy experimental show. And then my second year was the Rite of Spring.
Oh,
but
wow.
we called it the Rewrite of Spring. So it was like playing, I don't know if anyone knows that piece, but the bum, 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 bum. Imagine that with buns and cats and so like,
Man, we got to get you out to a show. You've never seen a drum corps show, right?
No, not in person.
It'd blow your
Not in
mind.
person.
Yeah.
bro,
I'll be there. I work for Pearl, so I'm going to be there in August.
sick.
I go every year. Was Blue Devils playing Pearl at that time? I don't remember.
when I was with them, I played a Pearl Masters kit.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So also shout out to, is Johnny still at Pearl?
Johnny?
Farquharson?
Oh, John, yeah, of course, yeah.
Haven't talked to him in a minute. What's up, Johnny? Bro, if you haven't been to a drum corps show, it'll change your life.
Let's go.
The brass and just it's an overwhelming sound.
I want it for my life.
We gotta go. I think they do it at like Vanderbilt, Murfreesboro. Oh yeah, Murfreesboro was always super sick.
Yeah.
Anyway,
we'll get you out.
drum corps, it was great. 2 years aged out, and then I was a part of this thing called Blue Devils International, which ultimately all this is leading me to Nashville coming out. So it was like I aged out. Blue Devils, what's cool about them as opposed to all the other corps is they have a C corps, which is like little kids that feeds into the B corps, which is high schoolers to like entry level college. Yeah. And then they have the A corps, which is like their main players. Yeah. And on top of that, they have a RCC drum line. And then they also have a winter guard. And then we started this thing while I was there called Blue Devils International, where we traveled for a little over 2 years to like Asia, Europe, the UK, kind of all over the world doing like clinics and performances. We got invited to this thing called the Basel Tattoo, which European Tattoo is just a music festival. And so the Edinburgh Tattoo is the largest one, and the Basel Tattoo is the second largest music festival. And basically, people from almost every country around the world are invited to represent their nation's culture.
Whoa.
And so you had like the Scottish dancers and you had these like the Japanese like taiko drummers, and everyone's in like traditional garb too. It's like, it's super sick. And then Blue Devils, we were representing the United States. And so it was like a medley of like Rhapsody in Blue and these big band charts and like pop charts. And
whoa,
it was super fun. Finished that in 2015 and then started grad school in Nashville, Tennessee that fall.
Wow.
Anyway.
What a journey.
Wow, dude.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a million questions we could ask about all of that.
I mean, first thing is like that.
Yeah.
I was getting emotional. Like, we're representing the U.S. I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. Like, how did that feel?
It was sick, dude. I mean, it was cool because what's funny is that group, it wasn't all like U.S. because we couldn't bring everyone from the U.S. So it was like part of like our group was assembled from like around the world. Yeah. Like people that had ties to the Blue Devils. So it was like, that was the coolest thing is like when we got overseas, like all these players kind of like from Europe and the UK were playing with us, and some could like barely speak English. And so it was really cool as like representing not only like DCI being like at this point probably the most established drum corps in the game, but like also representing the music of your country.
Yeah.
You know, like jazz and like improvisational music and folk and like all of this wide melting pot of what American music is. It was cool because I don't know. You're also like young 20s and you there's this like eagerness and confidence and you just feel kind of like you're on top of the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
as you would.
it was just special because it was like top performers at what they do, meeting other top performers like around the world. And there was just this mutual respect for everybody, you know, like everyone was really great at what they did and was like eager to connect and learn more. And it was a really fun experience.
Yeah,
Damn.
man.
That sounds like an ideal experience.
Oh, it's I'll never forget it. Like in the highlight reel, probably foforever. Just some of the stories
like
from that trip. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even to bring it back to what Nico had mentioned during his episode about drum corps, and you know, he would constantly say it was always about the family and the whole. You know, is greater than any one individual.
100%.
And especially for, I mean, he was with the cadets and obviously Blue Devils. Like that top 5, top 10. Really any participating group has to have that mindset, you know, to be successful.
Yeah.
What was kind of a takeaway in terms of like discipline and just like honing your craft?
I would say the Blue Devils approach to everything has like ingrained in me a part of like who I am today in music, from like a person level all the way down to like how you, because what's cool is like there's so many approaches to learning music, you know, and especially in drum corps our days where we'd get up at I don't know 8, 9, breakfast at 9, rehearse 12 hours every day, and then go to bed, wake up, do the next thing. Except on show days, you'd rehearse half a day, shower, dress, show. But it's like for a summer,
Good God, that's just amazing.
You're rehearsing a 12-minute show to perfection. I mean, the slightest little details every day for months, 12 hours a day. You know what I mean? Like long days. But what the difference was, like, you have like a lot of more regimented style corps, like the Phantom Regiments, the Cavaliers, the Madison Scouts, where it's like it's very much for this fraternity, military, like this is what we do. And the Blue Devils are like California, like vibey, kind of like that classic West Coast mentality. You know what I mean? And so what was cool was, and I don't know if any of you guys know Scott Johnson.
Yeah, of course. Scojo.
Scojo. Yeah. So like getting to work with him, like he's the chillest dude.
Yeah.
Like he's the epitome of like, bro, I didn't know you were chill like that. You know what I mean? Like that's Scojo's vibe. And his whole thing is like, why work longer and harder when you can work more efficiently and smarter and have more fun than everyone else and still get a better result? And so that was how we rolled. It was like, we're not in this to just, like, we had those days where it was like, no, we're out here till we get it right.
Yeah.
But like the staff and the people were all about the balance of like, you're also kids and we're here to like enjoy this. And like you're traveling the world and you're making these memories and these friends, like it needs to be fun too. And so there were days like they would give us off. Like there were days where the brass line is, we found a community pool or whatever college we're at, and they had the whole rehearsal all day in the pool playing and they're swimming in between. It's like finding that balance of like work hard, play hard. Like, and that was our mindset. And I feel like it just, when you were on, it was like, it's down to business. I'm going to bring my A game. You're also with some of the best at what they do. And so there's this ear and eye for precision is just high. I mean, there were literally days like, we're like, all right, we have a show change today, guys. You have 2 hours to learn 300 measures and memorize it for tonight's show.
Oh,
yikes.
Like learn, memorize, execute. And so it was just like testing your mental stability to the max of like what you're able to remember. But it was cool for me I think the biggest takeaway I've gained out of drum corps was my ear and tempo training. Because a lot of the songs I would have to start, and you don't get a click on field, right? We're rehearsing with the metronome all day.
Yep.
Put at the back of the field because of the sound delay. Everyone's listening forward. Everyone's listening back. So the furthest back point was the metronome for slap delays and stuff. And a lot of songs I had to start cold. Like start of the show, I started, and it had to be 110 BPM, you know what I mean? Or everyone would get thrown off. So all throughout the summer, Scojo had his doctor beat, and he'd be like, 110, go. And I would do this until it was like I was within a dB on a BPM on either side.
Whoa.
Like really dialing in these BPMs. But then also I'm like
BPM off of instinct.
Off of instinct.
And not just like, because 60.
Yeah.
If you're a drummer and you can't give me 60 BPM, stop what you're doing and at least memorize that. You should know how fast a second passes.
Exactly. And so it was like doing that every day, having a 13-piece front ensemble that I'm the anchor of, and I'm kind of the glue between them and the drum line. And so the whole time I'm like, I'm not watching the conductor. I'm just listening back to the drum line. And so with drum lines, they're playing broken 5 septuplets, these crazy rhythms. And then I'm having to find one the whole time. And so I think that was the biggest takeaway.
Yeah, man. Yeah, if you ever go to a show, you'll see that the set player has to kind of, like you said, bridge that gap. And they're looking back.
You're looking back. I'm watching feet sometimes,
commands.
like watching their feet for interest.
I mean, basically, you're the band leader, right?
Yes.
So would you say you've sort of taken that kind of work hard, play hard approach to your modern day gigs as band leader?
Try to
detail and focus and that's cool to hear. I mean, you guys have heard the expression like we're the sum of our lived experiences, right?
Right.
And it seems so appropriate for you, like having the gig for King and Country, having that rudimental infusion into the gig, which is so cool. Yeah, dude. Coming from DCI. That's just awesome. Yeah.
It for sure has spilled over to everything. And like, cause Phil, it's like when I went to Belmont for grad school and really studied did my thesis on this thing called the drag beat, which is like born out of J Dilla, D'Angelo, Questlove in the 90s and hip hop, R&B leading to now. Wrote like a 70-page thesis on it. And
can I read that?
Yeah, you want to email that us over?
Yeah, I would love to. In that I talk about how feel can be taught.
Yeah.
And
it absolutely can.
It can.
Benny Greb, right? We've talked about that.
And if you know the tools, if you immerse yourself in the culture, it's like, a 16th note samba feels different than 16th note rhythm of a marching snare drum, and 16th note feels different than 16 notes playing like in a jazz gig. It's like the interpretation of rhythm and feel is dependent on the culture and what the music is. And so it's like, talked about that. So it's like merging. It was kind of cool. I was almost like, I had to strip back this pursuit of perfection in all my playing from drum corps to then write and perform and do a thesis, which it carries over into a lot of like my personal project music is more in this sloppy Dilla kind of jazz vibe. And so it was like merging those two worlds and then like re-putting them together, I feel like is kind of how I've now 32, been in Nashville 9 years. Like I've more than ever, I feel confident in like what my fingerprint is of my playing.
Yeah.
And it's just cool you talking about it, like how you get to that point.
Yeah.
How do you get the perfect Nashville kick drum tone? It starts with a lowboy Leather Daddy bass drum beater. This leather-faced beater occupies the sonic space between felt and wood beaters. It's punchy enough to cut through the mix on those 4-on-the-floor barn burners with the warmth you need for slow ballads. Okay, but who plays a Leather Daddy? Garrett Goodwin from Carrie Underwood's band uses one. Lee Brice drummer Donnie Marple plays a pair. Walk down Broadway any night of the week and you're going to hear one. In Nashville, you can test drive a lowboy beater at Drumbox and grab one at Forks, Drum Supply, or Nelson's. Check out lowboybeaters.com to learn more.
Transition to Nashville. So you went to music school in Arkansas, you said, right?
Yes.
And then, so you got to study at Belmont with Todd and Chester. How was that?
I did. so good. I mean, to this day, Todd London is a dear friend. Like we get coffee every. Do you guys know Todd?
No.
I know of him.
He's-
I haven't met him yet. Or Chester.
Shout out to Todd and Chester. But Todd, I still keep up with to this day. Like we get coffee probably 4 times, like every few months, we'll get coffee, catch up, see what he's up to. And I'll do like clinics and stuff at Belmont. But learning with him, I wanted to take 2 lessons. Like I took lessons with Todd and Chester. Todd was more like a mentor to me. And then Chester was like drums. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
I think we've heard that from some of our Belmont guests.
it makes sense. Yeah. I mean, Todd he's a boss, man. I love that man. But Chester, I was very grateful to get right before he retired because his thing were the Chester sizes. And it was kind of goes in what we were talking about earlier, a lot of independence.
Yeah.
But what's cool with my lessons with him were every day, you know, there were 2 kits. We would sit down and every lesson started with follow the leader. And so he would start playing something and I would just follow. And he'd give me like a couple bars or seconds if it was more free form to like mimic what he was doing. And he would just stretch me, stretch until we got to something that I just couldn't overcome. And then stop. This is what we're talking about. And then he would build that week's lesson based off that roadblock.
Huh.
And
That's
then
cool.
Wow.
would work on that, come in next week, build where we left off, push. Everything you did right hand lead, you had to do left hand lead.
Beautiful.
And so, yeah, he taught me a lot of like inner independence and everything you do, even if it's a basic independence exercise, it always needs to be musical and it needs to like, he was great and learned a lot about myself and life through his teaching. Just a very thorough person.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he was rad.
So at this point, you're in college, like kind of backing up a bit. Did you have your eyes set on, in terms of a career, like obviously being the best drummer you can, but then kind of what's next? Like were you trying to just be in a band, tour, do the education thing?
Man,
figure that out.
Yeah, it's hard because like when I was in Arkansas in school, I was doing drum corps, but I was teaching. I ended up like teaching drumline, teaching lessons for all region and all state at a few high schools and stuff. And like I loved education, and it was just the first thing. Not being anywhere where there was live music, it was like the immediate way to start making money while in school doing music education. And I had this like deep passion for it. But it was when I was in Belmont in Nashville, where it was like I moved to town and immediately the goal was like, I'm not going to teach. I did a little bit, but it was like, I want to focus on touring. I want to focus on performing and being a session drummer. And got plugged in playing at church. My first like pro touring gig was with this artist, Christy Knuckles, who her and her husband, Nathan's an incredible producer, but they started Passion City Church with the Giglios, Chris Tomlin, Matt Redman, Charlie Hall. Back in the day, they had all moved their ways. They had moved back to Nashville, and we led one morning. Nathan was a fan. He's like, hey, you should start playing with us. And that was like my first gig in college, fall of 15, toured with them. But the question of like, it's so crazy because like you have, like you guys know, you have to be, I feel like willing, you have the end goal.
Yeah.
But the path to how you're getting to these checkpoints, I think
It's not linear.
It's not linear at all. And it's like you're chasing multiple paths at the same time and some fade off and then transition. So for me, it's been, I was in school, like heavy education, like writing, doing my grad school studies and lessons and being prepared for that, but started touring.
Yeah.
And, it was like when I graduated, I picked up touring even more. I graduated in 2017. And so it was like, started getting into like recording myself more. I started doing more sessions, playing for artists, getting into playback at the time. Like what that world looked like. Started really incorporating electronics into my kit.
Yeah.
Doing everything to make yourself more hireable. It's like, what can I do that other people aren't doing? Like, or how can I make my audition stand out a little bit more? Like, what little extra thing can I add? And so it was like diving into hybrid drumming and doing like, I can do playback, I can run sessions, I can do this. And it was like, how do I make all of these things meet? And then you look back and you're like, oh, we're here.
It worked
you know
out.
what I mean?
Yeah.
It worked
I
out.
did something right. Yeah.
But it was like just being a yes man while always in the back of my head. Like it transformed from being, I want to be the best drummer to I want to be an incredible musician.
Yeah.
Like I want to contribute more than drums. I want to have something to say, period. Like I want people to value my opinion regardless of the drum part. Like, what do you think about the mix? What do you think about the production on this? What do you think about? And when I started there for a while, actually, in a couple bands, I wasn't even the drummer. I was an auxiliary player. And I feel like those years, that was in 2019 to 21-ish, I wasn't the main kit player in 2 bands before I ended up becoming it. And those years were incredible. I was playing with other drummers and I was learning to follow again. And I was like pushing myself. I was playing like guitar and synth bass and keys and like doing electronic stuff and like trying to stretch myself. And even if I didn't know something, I would say, yeah, I can do it. And then I'd go figure it out. You know what I mean?
Let's go.
And
that's self-belief, which is required.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes saying yes, in fact, like you should say yes before you're ready. If you're always ready for everything you say yes for, you're going to be really bored in life and you're not going to grow. So you should definitely say yes to things you're not quite ready for that are just outside of your range. And sometimes maybe even not just outside.
Dude.
Sometimes that are kind of far outside. That's how you get good stuff.
Funny you say that because I was having this conversation with some other musicians and it's like, we all know it's like the music industry is so, even more so now, it's so saturated. Like there's more music being released every day than ever before. Yeah. There are more musicians, there are more of everything. And in a way it's harder because the business isn't functioning at the same way it was before. Right. Bands are smaller because people can play bass and keys. They can do drums and play. There's like less roles, more people. Yeah. And I tell a lot of like youngsters like, hey, how do I get to do this A, B, and C? And I'm like, it's almost, I don't say this, but it's like almost that thought of if you have to ask, there's probably a chance it's not going to happen. Yeah. Like there almost has to be this like relentless mentality of like,
I will figure it out.
I'll figure it out. And you never let no one know you don't know. And you just do it.
Yeah. Man, I love that. And I honestly, I really do struggle with that because I'm like, I like to, it gives you confidence to hear the answer from another person who's done it. But if you're only ever doing that, then you're always within explored territory, period.
Right.
So like, it's cool to forge your own path. It's okay not to know how to get to the place you want to go to. You know, like to bring it back to, you're talking about like, I kind of see that place almost like a light on the hill. And you're like, I got to walk through some woods to get there. And it kind of obscures the view. I'm not sure. I think I'm heading, I think it was basically north like that way. It kind of looks maybe brighter over there. I hope sometimes you just got to walk a few miles through the woods to get to the lighthouse and find the bonus prize.
Man, that was deep, Nate.
That was deep. That was profound. That was very deep.
But also, to connect that also, we're never alone, especially in this city, right? And did you have a lot of mentors early on when you first moved to Nashville? And I think that's part of it is like being confident to say yes, but then like, when you said like figure things out, I've leaned on so many drummers here for Ableton stuff early on,
I definitely did. And those people for me, actually, it's like I moved to town, immediately kind of got plugged into some like, just, local artists, indie art, like you're just starting to gig. Even it's like I've played bass, we've played Basement, we've played like all these local, Adolf 8th at the time, RIP, and like all these like local shows. Local artists before
Nazi bars.
Adolf 8th.
Jeez, how long ago was that?
Dang, is that still 8?
Off.
Adolf.
I literally thought you said Adolf.
Adolf 8.
Adolf 8.
No, that's crazy. If
we
there was
are in
like
Nashville. Okay.
some flyer with Adolf's face and it's just like local bands. No,
so confusing.
8 bands. It was 8 off 8th Avenue.
Got it.
And so, anyway. That's funny. That's awesome. But it was like, besides getting plugged into like local friends and artists and like getting to cut my teeth that way, the dudes I'd reached out when I first moved to town were Garrett Goodwin, who at the time jumped for Carrie Underwood and held that since he was, I want to say, like I don't know how old. He held it for so many years. And he was the kindest dude. It was like, he's like, yeah, I usually don't do this thing, but he's like, you seem legit and like, it's chill. And so he invited me I went to a bunch of their shows, got to see him do his thing, which was really cool because it was like I don't know if any of you guys have ever seen Garrett's set. It's crazy.
It's wild how he sets up.
How it's like, he literally had DW make him a custom snare drum stand because their normal ones didn't go low enough. His snare was like,
So weird.
below, like if this is a normal person's snare drum, his hand went like down here.
Yeah.
But from the audience, he looked so cool because everything was this big, like massive movement, and all his fills were just. And he kind of taught me of like, oh, that's how you play in arenas. Like, there are times for the fun, quick, cool player guy, but like, I learned how to really, just from viewing him, he showed me like showman, simple, big drumming. Like, how can you make yourself stand out in an arena? And that was cool from Garrett. And he brought me along to sessions. I met like Richie through him. I met like a bunch of other drummers through him. And another big guy who's a dear friend still is Marcus Finney.
Dude, we love Marcus. Yeah, we had him on.
And he's like on that other side of the spectrum. He was like the opposite player of Garrett.
Yeah.
And he was like more in town sessions playing with Kirk. And like now he's doing stuff with like Kemo and like everybody. But it was like, he was what my like giddy kid player gravitated towards.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like,
he's a bad
he's
dude.
a bad guy. And so like dudes like him, those two were like the main dudes. And then I had met with a bunch of other guys. I met with like Jared Neal, and I met with Matt. God, I'm blanking on his last name. He drums for Taylor.
Billingsley.
I met with him once, just picking his brain, because what he was doing at the time when I was trying to incorporate like more electronics, he was on another wave using like external apps and stuff, like not even using any Roland stuff at the time, drum wise, running his samples like 4832, like with Taylor, he's like, it needs to be highest quality. And so just was trying to learn what I could by people setups, but those were some of the people
those are some good choices.
reached out to.
That's amazing.
Those are excellent guides to the field for sure.
Yeah.
I didn't the appeal of Garrett's setup for the visual did not occur to me. Insofar as it's about his movement. I need to watch, because I've never watched, I've seen pictures of him playing, but I've never seen video of him actually playing it.
And that's literally what
makes so much sense. It wasn't
natural. I mean, it eventually got to the point where he played that way because he was so used to it.
Right.
But I remember him saying, he's like, I did this. So everything looked like, bro, I'm not joking. His ride cymbal, if you were just sitting on your kit, you had to stand up a little bit to reach his ride cymbal. Like and so live when he hit that crash, bro, like he was coming up off his seat.
Oh my gosh.
It was cool. They taught me a lot. Like,
but his chiropractor is probably pissed.
Oh, yeah.
Well, actually, no. He's probably making some good money off.
Yeah, he's probably, his chiropractor is like, please.
You're please. Like, more weird drum setups.
Yeah, and set it up so you kind of have to like turn your body as you lean too, and also you have to hold a box.
Yes.
And then I'll see you in a week. Dude,
go watch. Yeah, you should watch some old Garrett videos.
That's really interesting.
We've heard that from all the arena drummers we've had on the show.
There's
same thing. It's
so
all
much
about
visual.
the motion, the visual, simple, entertaining, big, but not like in a goofy way. Like it just
because it just straight up
impactful.
If you're 500, 800 feet away from the action and the dude's moving like this, how fun is that to watch in a live performance?
It's not. Yeah. I mean, that's the cool thing too. Well, I feel like the culmination of like, it's like learning from guys like him, learning for this, having that like drum corps experience, having this and this, where it's like, okay, how can I apply all this? And it's like, where he's like, I want to be a choppy player still, but then also be known for like great showmanship and stage energy. Right. It's just like finding those.
That's where my brain goes to someone like Devin Taylor.
Oh yeah.
Or like CJ Thompson, where I'm like, where they can absolutely chop you into oblivion, but they're like, they know how to cross the line between that and just like awesome stage show, giant,
just look big,
powerful.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were to go to check out Garrett's Instagram,
Okay.
anybody listening, Garrett P. Tyler, right? And I mean,
P.
dude,
Tyler.
all those, I love watching those live videos.
dude.
I think it's like the first few that you have like pinned or something.
Yeah,
Like, I think you've arrived. Like you can very clearly see the rudimental chop background, but you're very much in command, and it's not. You're serving the song. You know, you're serving the band.
Appreciate
but
that.
it's very fun to watch. There was actually copied one of the captions from one of your videos because it says, halfway through this musical reprise of Relate, I play a drum fill that is inspired by the great Calvin Rogers.
Oh yeah.
Bonus points if you know what song it's from.
I bet I know what fill it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go. Down.
Yeah.
It's James Fortune Fire is the
Yeah,
band,
man.
and
I thought that was just really cool because they obviously wanted to talk about your drumming influences, and there you go. You can always have room to infuse that, but that's not the whole show.
Right.
Can't be. Right?
There are moments of, like, some of my obviously big gospel influence on my playing, guys like Calvin Rogers, Chris Coleman, like those two. Like my favorite gospel drummers that I feel like I've pulled from the most are Calvin, Chris Coleman, Spanky, and Sput. Like those three dudes, like their work in the gospel music is like unmatched. Personally.
No, I don't disagree with you.
And they're like, for me, they were early dudes I gravitated towards, and then it was cool to see them go out, you know, from the gospel world to like be in bands like Snarky Puppy and play with Erykah Badu and play with Lauryn Hill and Beck, and like Chris Coleman with Beck is a crazy thought.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's insane. And Beck gives him like a 30-second drum solo each night, and I'm like, and it's cool, but I'm always, every time I think, yo, the people in this audience don't even know what this dude is capable of.
They are unworthy of this.
The utter destruction that Chris Coleman brings.
That's a big influence. My biggest all-time influence is Steve Gadd. He's like the reason I play, I feel like, mostly with how I play.
Did you see him when he was in town? Just like
I didn't get to see him. I've seen him I've seen him like 4 times. I actually got to meet him as well.
Ooh.
I met him and David Garibaldi at the same time. It was like super sick.
Insane.
But monsters. But like what resonated with me the most was like I was also a dancer when I like tap danced for like 8 years. And,
what? We're gonna jump into this in a minute. Yeah.
I've just been talking drums, bro.
That's all good.
So he tap danced when he was a kid. Yeah. And he went into the Air Force Band, and so he had this very rudimental background, but he could chop, and he was like linear, and I was like, I just resonate with how you play. Like I resonated with a lot of the diddle inverted work and like big macro grooves filled in with all of these colorful ghost notes, and I was like, that's how I want to sound. Like, and obviously the Vinny Calutas, the David Weckl, like all the like guys who inspired gospel chops from that fusion era, like big inspos. But I'd say at this point in my life, reflecting back, my big 3 would be Steve Gadd, Jay Dilla, and Stanley Randolph.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Great Stanley, I saw him play at Bass Bash with Ethan Farmer, and I was just like, this dude's pocket is so insane, and especially his pocket on display when he's chopping, because
he never loses the backbeat,
never,
and he's always there.
He is underrated for as much as he's loved. He's underrated. He's
underrated.
Unbelievable. He really impacted me, man.
Yeah.
Seeing him live was like, what? Who is this?
First time I saw him was on the Stevie Wonder tour, Songs in the Key of Life, and him and Lil John Roberts were both 2 drummers, 2 drum sets. And it's like Lil John, he's a killing player.
Yeah.
But Stanley, bro, he stole the show. And it's just like, and what's cool is he plays with like marching, like the metal grade. No, they're not metal, but it's like, you know, you got the 5B, extreme 5Bs. Like basically the step under a snare drum marching stick is what Stanley plays with. And so he's playing these crazy chops. And I'm like, everything feels so thick and beefy too. It's like, oh, he's playing with logs.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I got to be able to chop like that with heavy sticks to get that punch in the mic.
Some beef.
Some beef. Yeah. Stanley Randolph.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Great choice.
But those are my big three.
Yeah, man.
I'd say. But Steve Gadd's number one. He's my number one.
How about the late great Aaron Spears?
Bro.
I feel like everyone was touched by him in some way.
They
even
were.
If you didn't realize it,
I actually played a transcription of his 2006 MD or Modern Drummer Caught Up video.
Yeah.
No way.
Full transcription of it for my junior.
Is there video of this?
Maybe in the archive. I'll try to find it.
In the archive.
For my junior jury. That's what I played.
Come on now.
It was fun. Yeah.
Quite the jury.
I pray that is in the archive because I want to see that.
Honestly, me too. It'll be rough, but it's there.
It exists.
It exists, yeah. But yeah, Spears was like, that was devastating.
Yeah.
But I think he's one of those drummers who like revolutionized, like, it was that whole era that started of like playing over pop songs.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
right.
Like kind of the beat stays in the track and then you're just this sauce on top of it.
Yep.
I think he was the OG
100%.
of that. It's
He's one of the big, that performance where like, with him and Usher, like people saw that and they're like,
Oh, you can do
a
that?
drummer's being featured.
Yeah.
Like he's
Yes.
doing big stuff. He's being featured by the artist. The artist is like cool with him doing the
taking
thing.
the show. Oh, also another Tony Worcester Jr.
Oh, yeah.
Also
Oh, yeah.
another
With
like
Jay-Z.
Jay-Z used to
Yeah.
give him so much time
Massive
to shed.
Oh
you know
my
what I mean?
gosh,
I've
dude.
been watching those videos hours.
Good
Yeah.
old Tony.
Yeah.
Though, I'm sure you've seen the one where he's just like hanging out at like some like a club or something, and he's clearly sauced.
Oh, okay. I don't know if I've
Like
seen
he's got
this.
a red solo cup in his hand, and he like finishes it. He's like, all right, and then he just annihilates. You're
Yeah.
like, yo, shut
Yeah.
up, bro. Get
Even
out of here.
following his process, he actually was the one who inspired me to get a DW practice pad kit.
Yeah,
And I was like, as opposed to just a snare, like just the way, even to this day, his like garage videos. It's cool to see drummers like him because it's like he's on doing the Katy Perry gig now, but like continuing to like put in the woodshed to
Yeah.
like keep up those chops is like, it's inspiring.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Especially those drummers that were that good, that young,
And to
Yeah.
maintain it, like
Yeah.
to continue to maintain it. And
Yeah, stay hungry.
yeah, shout out to them. Yeah, man.
You've heard of Drum Supply, but you gotta see their shop. It's a drum shop experience like no other. They're packed with all the gear a working drummer needs, and so many parts, noise toys, and accessories. It's a toy store. Curated cymbals, kits, and snares. The hands-on percussion room is nuts, and their custom shop work is fast and affordable. Andy and the guys know their stuff, and they're ready to help. And the big news? They've just moved to an awesome new location near the corner of East Trinity Lane and Dickerson Pike. Still in East Nashville, just a couple miles from their old spot, the all-new Drum Supply is twice as big, featuring a dedicated cymbal room, a lesson space, and even more drum gear than ever. Go see the new Drum Supply shop for yourself. Now open 11 to 5 at 2211 Dickerson Pike and online at drumsupply.com.
So let's go back 6 months ago. Well, basically January. You're on the cover of Modern Drummer
Yeah.
with For King and Country.
Yes.
So let's get into that gig itself and what that moment meant for you.
Yeah. Well, where do you want to start?
Wherever. I guess maybe the gig first, and then maybe that leads into that feature and everything else.
So that gig actually was one of the gigs I mentioned where when I first joined, I wasn't the main kit player.
Mm-hmm.
Was 2021, top of the year, and I think it was March, coming right out of COVID, which was a crazy time for musicians all around, all of us, any creatives, everyone was affected by it, but it was like, especially, I feel like the creative community is like, when are we going to do things again? And For King was one of those bands. This is crazy. I didn't realize this. They did For King and Country was the largest touring act in the world in 2020. They did more. They did more shows. They did a whole like mini month drive-in show.
Wow.
And like never stopped, hit it hard, like kept the momentum. So it was going into that next year, some people were phasing out, and one of them was, at the time, they had the main kit player, Teddy, and then there was a second kit, a little more stripped, but it was like a second kit, and then all the drums. And that person was phasing out, so I got asked to audition. I think it was like, we were filling 3 roles. It was like auxiliary role, a guitarist role, and then a more like keys forward multi-instrumentalist role.
Yeah.
And they wanted video recordings of you. No rules. They're like, record yourself doing whatever you want to these songs.
So then you found the jury from the junior jury, right?
Right. Yeah. And then I played Caught Up.
Yeah.
No. But it was like, oh, okay, blank canvas. So I took the 2 songs and I basically was like, I'm going to treat it as if I'm the producer. And they handed me the song off where it was. What would I then add to it, or like whatever. And so I like reproduced it basically. I like added keys and kind of showcased all my skills, tried to add new stuff, did some vocoder stuff, play a little bass, like added marching snare and perk and orchestral stuff, and like redid the drum parts, and like just tried to like.
You took do whatever you would do to it very literally.
Very seriously, yeah.
Good.
I was
man.
like, I want this video. And then I had my buddy who's a video editor. I was like, make me look so cool. You know what I mean? Like, you got to, like, again, doing those things, like, how can I do the most to make mine just stand out?
Yeah.
And so.
Was that did you know that was like pretty competitive position, or did you feel pressure? Like, I really got to bring it for this? Or?
I had no idea how many people. I mean, I know they had reached out to quite a few people, but I didn't know who. I only knew one other person. Funny enough, we were doing a session. I was like, yo, I got to bounce. I got to go make some videos for this audition. He's like, who? And this is like my best friend, Danny Lopez, who's in for King and Country with me. But at the time, we were up in the session. He's like, wait, I got to make some audition. I was like, for King and Country? He's like, me too. We both got called separately for the same gig.
That's hilarious. Yeah.
Long-winded, I'll cut it down, but showcased what I could do, got the gig. And so when I first joined the band, a lot of transition was happening. You know, there were 3 new of us, and I was like, what my mentality, and if I can pass this on others, my mentality when I get into a gig, my first thing isn't like, what can I change? It's more like, how can I serve this? Like, how can I like gain trust? How can I like just love on what's here, serve it, get to a point where I then can like leave it better than I found it. So for a couple of years, I just was team player. I built a whole, they didn't have world percussion. I added a whole like world percussion section, which is now Chris's rig in the band. Added something I'm really into is like with the Ableton Push or like MPC's Akai Forces, like getting more stuff out of tracks, chopping it up and playing it live on samplers. And so like added a lot of electronics and like help shaping kind of like the live performance of the band. And then it got to a point where we had to like kind of reshape some things, let some people go. Just culturally, we were moving and trying to grow, continuing to push, move in a direction. And so they asked me, like, hey, we would love for you to be like the main kit player. Like, we love your playing. We know what you've added, the value you bring. We know that's like the seat you need to be in. Like, thank you for serving where you were at. And then they made me band leader. And so that kind of like this past year and a half, I've been in that leadership position with the band.
Wow.
And I love it. I have nothing but the greatest things to say about for King, like some of the work we're doing, the shows. We just wrapped up a tour in New Zealand and Australia, and it was incredible. Like, they have a film coming out. It's like the stuff we're like pursuing, I feel really proud to be a part of. Yeah, and it's like such a drum forward band too.
Totally.
Seriously.
Modern drummer.
Yeah.
That started by, you know, I remember watching an interview with Dave Grohl, and he's like, I never knew or like really thought about it, but it was just like, oh, it'd be cool to be on the cover one day. And then I think he's been on it like who knows how many times now. But it was always like a childhood thing. I'm like, man, you know, we grew up reading that magazine, and that was always in there. Well, joined for King, Modern Drummer had changed owners. David Frangione now owns Modern Drummer. He's owned it for a couple of years now. And David has worked on he was more on the engineering side for everybody. Like he worked on Aerosmith records. He's worked with I want to say Megadeth and I'm blanking. He's worked with everybody. And also a killer drummer and has this crazy vault of drums that is now the Modern Drummer, drum museum down in Florida. If you guys haven't seen it,
Didn't know that existed.
incredible drums, from crazy tours from The Who, Van Halen, one of Hal Blaine's kits that he recorded on, some Elvis tunes on, some kits you didn't know still existed. He has, and he just played. They're his, and it's his museum. And so we were down there. Him and his right hand man, Jason, is a homie. They are fans of For King and Country, and they had seen some shows and stuff, but I got connected with them, went to the museum, started hanging. I was like, yo, you should come see a show, recent show. You should come see one. And cause a lot has grown and changed, and they came out. It was obviously great. Loved it. Continued to stay in touch with them, in contact with them, with Jason, invited him out to some other shows. And so I feel it was cool. We got to build a relationship and got to see on and off stage, just as people, which is what's most important first is they're great people, and we got to become friends and bring his family to the show. But I think it was getting to see the spectacle of the drum show of what For King and Country is. And they were like, yo, I mean, we got to do something with this. And so it started as just hey, we're going to do a rig rundown for our YouTube and video, get you guys in rehearsals, do stuff. So then we had scheduled that. They came out to a show in Florida to do a whole rig rundown with For King and play through some stuff. And it was then when someone was asking me, they were like, so who are these guys? Someone who didn't know, oh, this is Modern Drummer. This is who they are, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, oh, so are you guys going to be on the magazine? And then David was like, they actually are. And that was the first time.
No way.
I was like, oh, he's like, yeah, let's make it happen. And so long story short,
Thanks, stranger, for shouting that out.
Thank you.
Yeah. He
Thanks
just, so it was cool.
Dude, that's so cool.
They came out at the Christmas show, and we did a photo shoot, captured a bunch of content, and they're we did a whole write-up. It was basically Luke, who is a untrained but drummer. He does the most drumming out of Joel and Luke, the brothers in the band.
Yeah.
Plays the marching snare. So he did a portion. I do a whole portion of my story and stuff, and then Chris was able to do a portion as well.
So cool.
So it was very humbling, very grateful for that opportunity.
Wow, man. How cool is that? What a cool situation. And not everybody gets to play rad music with cool people. Some people don't get to do either one of those things.
Yeah,
but to get both.
Yeah.
Do you have a printed
I do.
version?
I have
framed?
I've got a few. I framed one, and then
There you
I've
go.
got 6 extra copies. I'm gonna give to family and maybe sign a couple and give to some people. But yeah.
That's so cool.
I'll be waiting for my mailed copy.
I'll have to send you guys one. That'd be cool for the podcast.
You can just give us one joint. We don't need to.
Yeah.
Whatever.
But that was surreal. And I think that's just a testament too of everything we've talked about. Obviously, it's of the journey of how you get here. It's along all the steps along the way of anything that's happened in my life musically or outside of it. It's I can usually point out a huge relationship that was a part of
There
that.
you go. Yeah.
And just the full circle, it's crazy. I feel like I'm living more now in these full circle moments than I have. Obviously, it's a part of getting older, but even down to having met you.
Yeah.
And then us both pursuing these journeys, and then creating ventures and businesses and musical outlets. And then you find yourself back in the same room, and both people have grown into the next season and chapter of their life. I think that's been the most beautiful thing about all of it, is just the relationships.
Dude, we couldn't agree more. I mean,
So rad.
we love, big reason why we do this podcast is to see those friends, started. They're at one place in their musical journey in their life, and then 4 or 5, sometimes 1 year later, it's like they're in a whole new chapter.
Right.
Yeah, it's
pretty special.
It is one of the most satisfying things when you just watch people that you believe in follow a process that makes sense. If you believe in them, I guess I'm assuming these are non-toxic individuals. Like, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like if you like, you're going to do something and I can't wait to watch it. This is going to be awesome. And I have no idea what that's going to be, but it's going to be so great. And so many people here are doing that. It's like, God, it's so exciting.
I know. And again, it's like I said it before, but like, I feel like too, of the communities doing that, it's like, it's cool. Like the drum community, it's like everything is so shared and like championing each other on, even down to like, there are drum shops that are just hangs, you know what I mean? Like just so community driven. And I'm very grateful. It's like, it's crazy. It's just how Nashville has changed, how everything has changed so much, but being willing to stay flexible, to change and like adapt and like into what the next season, it's like, you set a goal. Hopefully, you keep chasing it and you can reach that goal and then you set a new one. It's like, keep dreaming bigger and stuff. It's like, for me, like, I want to get into like film scoring and like my wife.
Dude, let's go.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see it, man.
Stuff like that. And I don't know, just connecting more. And I'm rambling at this point,
man.
but yeah, man.
Hey, drummers, do you need a place in Nashville to practice on actual drums? Drumbox is Nashville's newest drum practice studio. Book sessions online and get the space to yourself. It's fully equipped with 2 kits, cymbals, hardware, and even sticks are provided. 30-minute, 1-hour, and 2-hour sessions are available at www.drumbox.space and use the coupon code NDP25 for 25% off your first session. Again, that's www.drumbox.space.
All right, I gotta take a minute and ask about some of these tattoos.
Okay.
So you, for those not watching, he's got a lot of tattoos.
Yeah, a lot of tats.
I got questions about certain ones. First of all, do they all have like a significance, or are some of them just like, I thought that was cool at the time? I don't know.
Yes, and both. Some I got for a specific reason.
Okay.
But most of my tattoos, I believe in like, you get something cool, and what's cool about it is the memory, because it's like, for me, it's a stamp in time.
Yeah.
It's like
September 3rd.
I can tell you what was going on in my life, what city I was in, what room I was in, who was with me, what tour. Most of my tattoos are done in green rooms and kitchen tables.
Okay.
That's hometown tattoo.
This is, I'm
Pocahontas.
part Native American. And so I grew up in Pocahontas as well. And it was my first traditional piece. I wanted to like a traditional style tattoo. And I went to Ian in Bushwick, New York. I was on tour in 2018 with R. Lamar. And I got this. This was my first tattoo on my left arm.
Sweet.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I was looking at the lips.
The lips.
Where and when?
So the lips were my wife, Hannah, love of my life. We met at Belmont. Literally the day we met, we were like, we're going to be together. And we're 5 years married.
Dude, let's go. Congratulations.
Yeah, congrats.
It was super. She's a badass, and she's a classical violinist. Awesome. Check her out. But no, I didn't have a tattoo for my wife. And we were on a date night, and she had this like really nice lipstick on. And I was like, kiss this napkin. And I got a tattoo of it. So she kissed a napkin.
That's awesome.
And I got her lips on my arm. Yeah.
Dude, love to see it.
How about the 6?
So the tallies are.
Tallies, yeah. Okay, it's more than.
They're 2
I
sets.
see that.
They are
6 and 8.
the amount of years I've known my best friend. So my best friend his name's Aaron Stearns. We met first
I was
semester.
going to say Aaron Sterling for a second.
Oh,
Okay.
very tight. No, Aaron Stearns is he's the head of creative at Capitol, and we cut our teeth together in Arkansas, and he's been an incredible friend, father now, and we got the first set of tallies, and then we let some years go by, and he's also covered, and then anytime we're like, how many years now we got to add? So we added like
so
a
cool.
month ago, 6 more years of tallies. Yeah.
pretty
So we're
special.
going to just keep it going. Let's put for our amount of friendship years.
Oh, that's really sweet.
Yeah.
All right. And then this last one, because this is my favorite bird right here.
The owl. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is actually 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces.
Okay.
This, and this was all done by the same guy, Ben Ritchie, who at the time was at Safe House Tattoos. This was my first tattoo, this whole piece. At the time, I wanted something. I was fresh to town. I just like ended my career with the Blue Devils. Wanted to get my first tattoo. My mom was like, first time you get a tattoo, we had to get it together. So she came to Nashville. We got tattoos together. And I really love like pointillism and like at the time I was really into like geometric shading but I love animals and my mom, part of like our Native American background is like, like animal totems and like being gifted feathers and stuff. And like, she's like really into like animal medicine and stuff. And so birds are like really unique. And at the time, like the owl and what it portrayed in that transition season of my life, for wisdom and growth and stuff. So
for silent hunting.
Yeah. So I got this piece. And first one out the gate, I wanted it to just be kind of wacky, crazy. I wanted pointillism, I wanted shading, and I wanted an owl's face in it.
I love it. It's kind of like this. It is all those things. Like the geometric shading and like honestly, it's in a way it's this weird like mathematical animal wisdom fever dream. Yeah. And I've been staring at it the whole. Man, I want to know about the owl.
It's the first too, which makes it special.
Yeah, it's cool.
Which again, it's like it's almost beyond what it meant. It's like it reminds me of the first year I moved to Nashville.
That's cool.
It's like
a stamp in time.
A stamp in time.
Love it.
That's what tattoos are. Stamps in time.
Literally.
Yeah. But
do you have any more specifically planned?
I do. My faith is really important to me, and I'm a believer. And it's like I have a couple. It's like this is Adam and Eve in the garden, and even it's like that how that journey has changed of like growing up and then stepping away from the church. It's like finding that balance of what. It's like being in a household where it was like there was never a point where I came to find my faith. It was like always one of those things where it was just always there.
Yeah.
So I never challenged it. I never like had that adult experience of like choosing something. Mm-hmm. And so through my life, it's like really finding out what that's meant. And so they're like, the vibe I'm in right now, I've got like this on my neck and then I've got like this guy. And so this whole wave is like kind of biblical stamp. So it's like Adam and Eve in the garden and these like 2 angels holding the crown. This is like Mary holding Jesus and like, so
that's awesome.
My next one, I really want to get I've got a couple chest rib pieces, but I want to get a huge, like medieval style, like rib down onto my leg of like Jesus on the cross.
Let's go.
Basically.
Yo.
Like pretty intense.
That's going to be
piece.
Fittingly, that's going to be a painful tattoo to receive.
Yeah, it's yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
But the ribs are kind of crazy. I'm not going to hold you.
Yeah. I had a friend who was a professional cage fighter and he got
that's sick.
He got a chest or a rib piece done and he was just like, dude, I was like just screaming, crying the whole time. I'm like, okay, well, that sounds great.
Eagle kind of like even goes up into my armpit right here. Mm-hmm. And it was like one of those where like when the needle's on your skin, you're not breathing. You're just like
it's like that. It's like that scene in Fight Club where he's just finding the cave.
Yes,
like this is my happy place. Here's the penguin. Yeah. Lord, that
tattoos are gnarly, and it's crazy too because like they raise your pain tolerance.
Yeah,
like at this point, it's weird. It's like needles or like cuts or whatever. You find you're like, oh, if I can endure a needle being drugged across my rib cage for that long, it's almost like like ice baths and all these things that are just testing your mental stability. It's like that's all it is. It's like I can do it. You know what I mean?
Which honestly might to some people sound like slightly unhinged as like a strategy for life, but really like I don't mean that as a joke, but I think somebody probably could hear them be like, yeah, I don't want that from like, but really, that's
not why you get them.
No, but
But it's not a bad side effect
It's
to
not.
have.
It's not. It's not. It's been good for me at least.
You know, life is hard. You should, try to make yourself tough if you can.
True.
The tats seem to be a thing for drummers. Have you guys noticed that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I don't think that's the reason people get tattoos, but another good side effect is obviously as the drummer and visually people are seeing that.
It's cool.
You know what I mean?
Dude, it's funny because that has actually crossed my mind. I've actually I specifically put this like on the inside. I was like, okay, because it's such a cool piece. Like I want you to be able to see
There you go.
it from certain vantage points. And so like Sean Williams, who's a dope artist, one of his originals, like also in that weird biometric vibe.
Yeah.
And he packs it in there. But I was like, where should I get his tattoo? Oh, I do this all the time. You'll see it. Anyway, but it's true. You think about like the placement of them and like how people will perceive them. Anyway.
Hey, drummers, are you worried about losing your hearing? Did you know noise exposure can cause permanent hearing loss? Dr. Jason Baker with Music City Audiology provides mobile concierge services to musicians in Nashville and surrounding areas. That's right. He is 100% mobile and will come to you. If you need ear impressions, custom in-ear products, ear cleaning, hearing tests, or information about protecting your ears, he's your guy. Music City Audiology cares about drummers and wants to help you maintain your most valuable tools, your ears. Visit MusicCityAudiology.com to book your consult today. That's MusicCityAudiology.com.
Switching gears, tell us about your solo album that was recently released.
Yeah. Gosh, when I put that out in, it was like after COVID, I want to say I put it out in 21 or started the release of it. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think like all of this, you hit a point where you're like a sum of all the things that have inspired you. And so I felt like it's something I'd always wanted to do, but never felt like it was the time. And obviously like COVID, when it was like all recorded over kind of that time, was like, what better time than now? And so, one of those projects where it's like, what do I want to say completely myself as a creative and what can I bring to the table? So it was obviously all my drumming. I'm singing on the project as well. Cool. I feature 2 artists, Davey, who sings on the title track New Normal, and then this guy, Austin Antoine, who's like an underground LA rapper that I wanted to feature. And I got his connect through one of my buddies, Amir Usman, who's this
sick.
Do you know Amir?
Yeah.
So Amir and I were in drum corps together.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah.
We were in Blue Devils International,
he did that thing with like Rolf Nader, or they've done a lot of similar content. I think.
Yeah. So we all did BDI together.
Yeah.
And so he had a band called Jumanji, and if you haven't checked out Jumanji,
I have not.
It is filthy. They don't do anything anymore, but it's Amir's project, Jumanji. He had Austin Antoine on one of the tracks, and I was like, I've always loved this dude's flow. I want him on a project eventually. So Austin Antoine is on one of the songs. But the whole, it's an EP, and it's basically me expressing like myself. And it kind of covers a lot of the genres I love too. It was like the first track is called In My Opinion, and I named it that because it's like, when you have something to say, you say, in my opinion. And so that was the thought behind it, was like, and that's a very Blue Note trio. It was like recorded live in the room together. Josh Blaylock, Zach Witcher were on that. And it was like very Blue Note vibes. I wanted to pay homage to the jazz world that I love. And the world I ultimately like, outside of the artists I play for, my project would want to see myself live in is like if I could get signed to like Flying Lotus's label and be on there with like Hiatus Coyote and like those guys, like that's like my dream. Like Hiatus,
that's ideal.
Like Kate Renata, Flying Lotus, Hiatus Coyote, like that's the stuff I'm listening to, amongst other things. But like, just if I'm just gonna throw something on, like that's who I'm vibing on. And so, In My Opinion, was that nod. The second track goes into The Moment, featuring Austin Antoine, and that is like a homage to like kind of like hip hop. It's this like very sample based, and it's just this trance, and it's you can just get lost in the flow of Austin rapping and the drum loop with these cool like drum breaks, and it's very hip hoppy, which then takes you into You didn't ask for this, but I'm giving you the record layout.
Dude, I can't wait to check this out.
Takes you into new. If you haven't listened to,
I have not.
Please listen. Let me know what you guys think.
I will.
I would love to know your thoughts.
Yeah.
It goes into New Normal, and New Normal is like the first track on the album that I'm like really singing. And the whole point of how that song came about was in COVID, during like BLM and during like all these protests and like just this fight that like wake up, like we got to be in this together. We have to like find a new normal, you know, if you will, of the time.
Yeah, that was always the phrase that we all said, like after COVID or coming out of quarantine.
New
right?
normal. Yeah. And but my whole day is like I was writing it during like all this going on, and it was like the new normal of like not turning an eye. So if you listen to that lyrically, and even what Davey does in the verses, I'm singing the choruses, he's singing the verses, where that's the subject matter that we're talking about is just being good people in a community that looks out for each other and is there for each other and is like people of their word and like stand up for what's right. But musically, it's like very Hollywood. My wife's quartet, Levi, shout out. They play on a couple, but they are featured on that song. And there's this whole like, I did a music video to it as well. It's like this whole like that classic Hollywood, like very JT 2020, like just feels magical. Like that was the theme of New Normal. I wrote that with my buddy Danny. And then that goes into a track called Sanctuary. And Sanctuary I actually recorded my buddy, do you guys know Carson Gant? He's a drummer up in Calgary, Canada. And his page is called One Up Drum Vids.
Oh, I remember him. Yeah.
Yes, I do.
So good. Yeah.
Okay.
He's ridiculous.
So he's like also very inspired by the Dilla. And so I was hanging up at his house on tour, and he's become a good bud and killing drummer. And he played me this track that he'd like remixed a song from this band that I will remember that his band had played too. And it was unreleased. And I was like, yo, can I have this? And he's like, yeah, dude, like record to it. And so at the time, me and my buddy Tim Burton, sorry, not Tim Burton, Tim Burkhead, who's awesome drummer. I think he like drums with like Gail, and he used to like run front of house for Leon Bridges and stuff. We shared a drum storage unit, and I had this track. I was like, yo, let's go like just vibe on it and record. And I originally recorded it for a social media video. And I finished the take, and we all know on time, it's like you finish the take, and it was just like a flow one take, and it's all in this like 5-tuplet, like Dilla slung drag going in and out of quintuplets and like septuplet fills and like chopping out while also keeping that like slot. It's just this push pull of a song where I got to like really express that part of my playing. And you get done with it, and you're like, I can't recreate that if I tried. So I mixed it, and I entitled it Sanctuary because that's the music that I feel most at home at, like my sanctuary is that style of playing.
Wow, so that was actually the recording used on the...
From my Instagram video and on YouTube, that is the actual... I obviously remixed it, and we added production. That's the performance. It was just a one take. And I love that song so much. And then it goes into a song called Lady, which features Emmanuel Eckham on trumpet, Adam McPhail on guitar, some awesome players, and it's just cool, vibey. It's like a love song. Anyway, and then the last song is And So It Begins. And that features my wife, and it's very movie score-esque, and it kind of is, I pulled from like all the tracks, bits and pieces, and it's kind of like a reprise of moments from the album, and then it ends with a solo violin.
Dude.
Yeah.
So sick. I can't wait to check it out.
Yeah. I'm not even going to finish the interview. I'm just going to go listen to the album. That sounds awesome.
that kind of has led into, sorry, I'm so long-winded. But
Bro,
Dude, I appreciate you
love
walking
your
us
level
through
of
that.
detail.
Okay.
Yeah.
That has led now to Danny Lopez and I. We've started a project. We actually got back in the studio. It was me, Danny, Zach Witcher on bass, and then Gabe Klein. I don't know if you guys know Gabe Klein, but he's a bad-ass musician. He's got a studio in Gallatin, and his incredible drummer and keys player, but great producer, engineer. And he's got the sickest space, like 5 minutes from my house. And so we got in there to do a write for my upcoming, like new solo stuff. And we got to the end of it and I was like, this is something totally new. And so Danny and I have started an instrumental duo, all jazz fusion, instrumental only, called D-Lo by GPT. Sick. And that debuts next month.
So cool.
Yeah.
Wow, dude.
I just love how there's always something. I mean, you've got some pretty big gigs, but then you're doing your individual projects, and you seem to always want to be collaborating with others, right?
I'm really glad you said that, because I'll be the first to admit, like, the thought of making music by myself, I would rather go work like a normal job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Personally. Like the idea, even like with like modern day, which I think this is a whole conversation we could probably talk about, is like the modern day of a producer. You know, back in the day, like the classic producers, like was the producer who got to hire the players he wanted, who got to like music direct and write and throw the ideas, like, you know, like a Rick Rubin style of producing, a Quincy Jones style of producing, David Foster, like the epitome of what it means to be a producer. You have an engineer where you're just in flow, you're just in creation, and like the puppet master almost. Yeah. That's what excites me. All the people and all the skills and expertise. The thought of just like being in my room, making everything in the box,
like someone
by myself.
You a demo and then just...
They're like, yeah, will you produce my album? Like what's his name? He's produced a ton of like pop hits. He's the Swedish dude.
Oh, Max Martin.
Max Martin.
Yeah.
Which like the wave he started of like bedroom producers.
Yeah.
Shout out to all the bedroom producers out there. Like, do your thing, grind, hustle. I respect it. It's not for me. Like, I need people, because I think that's where the magic happens.
Yeah.
Relationships are where the magic happens.
Yes.
Yep. And
it's like anything I could do by myself, I could extract more with someone else.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna push you in ways, and they're gonna. So Danny has kind of been that for me. Like we've been touring together since 2018 and to now, and basically we're like musical partners in crime. Like everything we work on, we kind of have to have the other person touch it in some way. You know what I mean? But collaboration is everything.
And are you still out with Judah and the Lion as well?
So currently I am not. I did the first leg of the Need to Breathe tour with them last fall. And then for King, just my leadership and involvement and like some of the stuff we've been working on and are continuing to work on is like kind of, it's hard to do it all. Yeah. And my motto has always been like, I'll do it all until I can't. So for years I did both up until this year. Okay. I wasn't on the spring tour. Actually hit me up to do a tour, or not a tour, but a show next week, and I had to turn it down. But I'm currently in a season where for touring, I can only be out with one because all my other time at home I'm spending on creative projects.
Sure. Yeah.
And so for me, the most roots and like excitement of things I'm working on are currently with for King. But with Judah, that's been incredible with them because I subbed for them in 2018. Also, when I first joined, was auxiliary. I wasn't playing kit at the time.
Right.
But I met them and I was like, yo, I think we can make the playback better and I could do this, this, and this. And I subbed and filled in, played the shows, and then left. And then they were playing some late night, and I remember like, man, I just love the dude so much. Like they became buddies. I was like, I just want to be around. And so the keyboardist left at the time. I was headed out to LA to do a tour with this artist named Jaguar Twin with Lovely the Band. And I landed in LA to start rehearsals. And Judah's manager calls me. He's like, hey, Daniel, our keyboardist, just quit the band, chased another career. We know drums are your main instrument, but the boys just want you to be in the band. Like, what can you do? And so I was like, all right, I'll do all these things that at the time I didn't know I could do yet. And I was like, I can do whatever. And so then I started playing guitar and bass and like, I was like chopping stuff up and added a perk roll and yeah. And then that eventually led to similar to For King, like the drummer at the time, Troy, who's Troy Bruner, a dear friend of mine, has an awesome band called Little Image. But he was the drummer. I was in this aux roll. But Troy also plays all the other instruments like phenomenally.
Yeah.
And so we started getting into the studio on Revival, the last 2 records I worked on. And that studio, they're like, it just kind of makes sense for y'all to flip. And then, so I recorded the drums on the project and he recorded like more auxiliary and some drums and perk too. But then he started pursuing Little Image, and then I became the main kit player up until now, basically. Yeah. I can't do both. Yeah, but those dudes are longtime friends. Longtime friends.
Again, back to you saying yes, having that confidence. It's like, well, I need to figure it out.
Yeah. What's funny is it's like being a drummer. I got that gig and did that Jaguar Twin tour. I ended up meeting at the time the head of A&R for Roland because I was like, I need all this gear. Yeah. And so I befriended the Roland thing, got an endorsement through them. And then a photo of me playing guitar is like in a few hundred guitar centers around the country. And I'm like, this shouldn't be me.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
You know what I mean? But it's just this photo of me playing guitar. Yeah. And it's just weird. But yeah, relationships. It's like everything.
It's weird, and yet it also makes sense that there would be a picture of you doing that. And it is kind of poetic.
Maybe.
Because you said yes.
I said yes.
And again, you weren't ready. You said yes ready. Before you were ready.
Was not ready.
And you got ready.
We figured it out. And shout out to all the homies who helped along the way of like, hey, do you know how to program a synthesizer? Yep. Hours later of just crash course for dummies, which is cool because it's like now you're on the other side and you're like, you learn all these. If I wouldn't have said yes, like all this stuff I wouldn't know.
Yeah, and it's fun to like have something to learn for, you know?
Right.
I felt that way with Ableton. Recently, I've been getting a lot more gigs having to use it. And it feels so gratifying that like I was doing some of that research on my own, you know, watching YouTube videos. But now like I have legit like sets and and deadlines. It's like, oh, you know what I mean?
That's a whole beast, bro. Yeah. Ableton, man. But yeah, great Judah, that crew. It's been great. Good ride with them.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Not the same as it ever was. Sonique Drums is the fledgling but fierce drum and percussion manufacturer based out of the Pinery, Colorado. They started their first year in business swinging and continue to punch up at the percussion industry at large. Sonique Drums is designing and manufacturing new, innovative, and better-made percussion accessories like the NATO 1, an industry-first, continually adjustable throw-off, or another industry-first, the 12-point drum key. Sonique Drums also specializes in steam-bent snare drums using domestic and exotic tone woods equipped with all brass hardware. You can demo and buy Sonique Drums original accessories and snares in Nashville at Nelson Drum Shop or meet them in person at the Music City Drum Show in July. Check them out at soniquedrums.com.
What kind of noodle is best?
Oh.
That is the only reaction acceptable. Just laugh at him. Just look at him and laugh. Shame.
What's funny is my wife made the best pasta last night.
Let's go. What was it?
And I remember her pulling up the boxes because she's big on like, which noodle do you want? You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, we love a good noodle option. And I don't know what the name of them, but the curly ones. Rotini? Is it Rotini?
Yeah.
Curly ones.
Rotini.
Whatever the curly boys are.
Yeah, little curly.
Not the
long,
macaronis.
Yeah.
But they're long.
About yay
like,
long? Yeah.
They look like a zildjian spiral symbol.
Yes. Rotini.
Nice.
That's my favorite noodle.
Cool. All right.
Okay.
You've been here, you said 9 years now?
9 years.
Yeah, okay, so you've seen the change. What's
yeah.
your favorite thing about Nashville and your least favorite thing about present day Nashville?
About just in general or about like the city specifically, people or just
wherever you want to take that.
Favorite thing that's changed and least favorite thing. I would say My least favorite thing is we're losing some of the like the small town roots of the city.
Yeah.
Like when I moved here, even then people obviously it had changed so much, but there was still this feeling of like, we're a small town. Like it's us. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It felt very like every day I went out for many years, I saw someone I knew every time. Mm-hmm. So it was like this big city, but like it's a home root city. It had this southern, which it still has that feel, but now it's exploding. It's blowing up, which is amazing. It's more work here. Mm-hmm. It's, you know, if you're able to like have made investments, that's making values come out. Like there's so many perks of it, but I miss kind of like parking just being free sometimes, you know?
That's totally fair.
I miss there just being like that one lot anywhere. That like you could just go park in, you know?
Or just a couple extra blocks away, but you can have a little walk, but it's free.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist.
Yeah.
No.
And my favorite thing about
drum roll,
this,
please.
Gosh. My favorite thing is that Nashville continues to purposefully, I feel like in the community, not be like anyone else. Like we're not trying to be LA. If anything, we're trying to like do the reverse of that. Like not trying to be New York. And it's still so community driven. Like it's still about the people. I don't know if that's just Southern culture. Like I grew up in the South, like, but there's still this like hospitable, friendly community. Like so many people I know that are moving to Nashville because they're like, it's so nice and everyone's so friendly here. And like it's not just go, go, go all the time. Like I love, like I said earlier, it's like I work hard, but play hard. Like I like that about Nashville. I love that it's green. I love that there's water. I live right by the lake. It's like, I love being outside. I love adventuring. And Nashville is like, you get this city, but you get this hospitable Southern town and you get like
kind of get the best of both.
The best of everything.
Totally.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Where do you want people to find you?
These are good questions. Where do I want people to find me? See, this could be a trick question. You could just be like, you can find me on Instagram, Garrett P. Tyler. You can find me online but I think ultimately I want people to find me in their living room, having a drink on their couch and just vibing like this. I want people to find me in conversation.
Dude.
Let's go. This is my favorite answer to that question that I've ever received.
Like, here's our URL. That was always the answer.
Yeah. That's, I don't know. That's just cool. Like, yeah, you can find me here, you know, but I don't know. I interpret it as like, how do you want to be known? And I think I want you to find me loving on people.
Dude.
Yeah.
Well said.
Heck of a good answer.
That was a great question. It was just vague enough. That was good.
That's Nate.
That's what I'm trying to do, brother.
I love it, man. That was a great question.
Thanks so much. Thanks for vibing with us today.
Thank you for having me, for real.
Of course, yeah.
It's cool to see what you guys are doing. I feel honored to be a part of the community and that you guys are giving back and just shedding light on people too. Like even like Bo and these other drummers that I've been on tour with. It's like, let's go.
Yeah,
it's cool.
Totally, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So thank you, guys.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Nashville Drummers Podcast. If you liked it, please consider leaving us a review on the Apple Podcast app. Please consider supporting us on Patreon. For $5 a month, you can help support this dream and keep the ball rolling for us. Believe it or not, it's not free or even necessarily cheap for us to make this thing go. To sign up, go to patreon.com/Nashville Drummers Podcast or click the link in our Instagram bio. All of your help is greatly appreciated.
Visit our website, NashvilleDrummersPodcast.com, where you can listen to all past episodes, learn more about myself and Nate, and buy all your favorite Nashville Drummers Podcast merch, including t-shirts, tank tops, sweatshirts, hats, and drum heads. Connect with us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube at Nashville Drummers Podcast.
You must call it a breakthrough. This episode of the Nashville Drummers Podcast was recorded at Garden Groove Studios.
Tucked away in a private and soundproof studio in East Nashville, Garden Groove was born out of a desire to create a space where musicians, entertainers, teachers, and learners could come together. Garden Groove offers a quiet and relaxed environment for creativity to thrive and grow.
Their mission is seated to fostering creativity and collaboration among musicians of all levels. In addition to a state-of-the-art recording space, they also offer a range of events and workshops to inspire and connect the community.
Recording, mixing, and mastering services start at just $45 an hour, and professional audio engineering services available for an additional $25 an hour. And exclusive discounts for newsletter subscribers, 25% off your first session when you subscribe.
Visit garden-groove.com to learn more and book a session. That's garden-groove.com.
Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.